It's 2012. I'm standing at the airport with my daughter, Selah, 2 sons, Parker and Clay, and my wife, Brittany. I'm holding one-way tickets to Ethiopia, and I can't help but wonder about the 9,000-mile journey ahead, and if I'm making one of the best or worst decisions in my life. There are times when you abandon the most logical option for what you know is right. This is one of those times. Ethiopia, we knew, wasn't the image on the cover of Time magazine from 1987 with a woman and her starving child, but rather a young, vibrant community brimming with potential. A country that since 2010 has been one of the fastest growing economies in the world and the fastest growing in Africa. Home to one of the oldest civilizations on Earth and birthplace to our beloved coffee. While Ethiopia, we knew, had potential, problems still existed. As we did research, we found that over 150,000 women were working in prostitution in the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. Girls as young as 8 years old lured into prostitution. 8 years old. Many young women are exploited and trafficked around the country and around the world, thinking that they're headed towards opportunity, yet often enslaved. Many of these women are orphans. In fact, it's estimated that there are over 4.6 million children that are orphaned in Ethiopia. About just a year before this, my wife and I adopted our little girl from Ethiopia. And it was hard not to imagine that she could have easily fallen into the same path. After adopting our daughter, these women and children no longer lived as statistics in our minds, but it was as if we could hold them in our arms as we held our daughter. Exploitation and abuse should not, cannot be the only option available to young women that are looking to provide for themselves. There had to be a better way, but Brittany and I were just 2 people. We knew indifference wasn't an option, but to be honest, we felt helpless. About a year after our one-way tickets, I was out shopping in an Ethiopian market with my wife for her birthday. We came upon this beautiful leather bag. This dark brown bag was gorgeous. Its style was unique. Everything about it really caught our attention. And as I looked inside, I found a tag, and on the back side of it was a phone number. I've never seen someone's phone number on the back of a tag before. But what I realized was this was a bag that was made in Ethiopia, using local material and in a local factory. What caught my attention was that there was a story behind this bag. There was real people. And I would have never imagined that a birthday gift for my wife was about to change my life and redefine my future. It turns out that Ethiopia is home to the 6th largest population of livestock in the world, and a producer of prized leather dating back to days of pharaohs. Curious about the market, I found myself at a tannery in Ethiopia, and I saw them loading it with rolls of leather. Naturally, I asked him, "Where is this going?" And his response, "Italy." This means that Ethiopian leather isn't just in abundance, but its quality is good enough to go to Italy and other parts of Europe, where it's used by luxury brand names that we all readily know. At this moment, I realized we had an unbelievable opportunity in front of us, that we could flip the script on the narrative that was being told about Ethiopia. We could provide safe and sustainable opportunities while putting Ethiopia on the map for international fashion, making premium leather and textile goods with materials sourced in Ethiopia. It became clear to me that only when we celebrate the value of people, we have fashion on purpose. The fashion industry employs some of the most vulnerable people in the world. In fact, over 80% of whom are women. Women that are reinvesting 90% of their incomes back into their families and communities. And while the fashion industry has the potential to be life-giving work, in many cases, perhaps even in most, it's not. For centuries, the fashion industry has celebrated the value of the consumer at the expense of its workers. We began to dream of a future that would not just celebrate the value of the consumer, because that's important, but continue and choose to value the people that are behind it, the workers. We had the privilege of meeting a woman named Sarawit, who started an organization called Alilta Women at Risk. Sarawit started this organization with a vision of restoring value in women that had been exploited through prostitution. And the results that she's had have been phenomenal, with over 90% of the women that graduate from this program in Ethiopia choose not to go back into prostitution. As we got to know these brave women, we continued to hear over and over again that they wanted dignity, that they wanted opportunities. These women didn't want to just survive, they wanted to thrive. These are women like Gannett. Gannett, who at just 3 years old was displaced from her family, couldn't even remember her birth mother. By the age of 12, she was forced out on the streets and lured into prostitution. By 15, she gave birth to her first daughter, where she continued to have sex for money in order to provide for herself and her little girl. Eventually, Gannett found her way to Alilta, where she found the healing that she had been looking for her entire life. And while life wasn't perfect for Gannett after coming to Alilta, she had a community around her to love her, to support her, and to give her hope. In fact, Gannett gave me hope by showing me her courage. What we knew about Ethiopia after living there became personal. Stories we were seeing every day, the data and the information were powered by them. Faceless and nameless statistics were replaced by faces and names. The potential we saw, along with the desire to create opportunity, led us to forming our company, Parker Clay, named after my two sons. The brand was born as a premium lifestyle brand that's hand-selecting the highest quality leather, making products by way of age-old traditional craftsmanship, all the while creating opportunities for vulnerable women to become economically empowered. Our team in Ethiopia is our family, and their stories are close to my heart. When you see the beauty of our products, it is absolutely a reflection in the beauty of the women that make them. This is fashion on purpose. I believe that providing sustainable income is key to supporting community transformation in Ethiopia. And while Ethiopia has been known as a destination for aid, we believe it's time that it's known as a destination for trade. And the stories that are unfolding before us hold this truth to be evident. Stories like Mesalu. Mesalu is a dear friend and one of the first women I got to meet when we moved to Ethiopia. When she was young, she became pregnant and was forced out on the streets to provide for her and her son. But it was Mesalu's dream that she would be able to send him to school. I remember one morning walking into our factory, and Mesalu, little Mesalu, she grabs my hand and pulls me over to her workstation. And out of her purse, she pulls this little blue card. This card was written in Amharic, the main language of Ethiopia, and on the bottom corner of it, it said 1 out of 44, meaning Eob was first in his class. We both stood there with tears in our eyes and realized this wasn't just about creating a job for one woman. This was about transforming the future, transforming the country and the world. My vision is that you do not need to compromise between a premium product and the value of people. How things are made is important. It's important because people's lives are at stake, people whose lives matter. Free trade, fair trade, ethical fashion, conscious consumerism, these are more than buzzwords. They are the language of a movement. Let us choose to be a global community that fights for those most vulnerable. And I would add, without compromising the style and the quality that we all love. Recently, Mesalu showed me Eob's current report card. Guess what? Still at the top of his class. And now I'm having conversations with this young man about what it's going to look like when he becomes the future prime minister of the country. Let us choose to be that community. I invite you to join me in considering the choices that we make on a daily basis that don't just satisfy our wants and desires, but celebrate the value of people. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Let's choose to be a community that goes far together because each and every one of us is worth it. In Ethiopia, we say, Amaseganalo, thank you.